First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. That is a shot down there of the Tillicum Bridge. And as you can see, it still has water on the lens. It's not raining out there right now, but we still have water on there. And that's on pretty much every camera that we've got because there was a lot of rain coming through. Thanks for joining us. We are live streaming on our website, our apps, and of course on social media on Facebook and YouTube. And I think you can see what time it is. It is the day where we have Eric G. from Around the House Northwest join us to provide all kinds of different tips, tricks, things that we need to know. There he is. Got him on there right now. Eric, good to see you.
Good to see you, brother.
So yeah, even on that camera lens, even in the backdrop, you can see all the rain on there. And I know one of the big issues that a lot of people have had is that water getting into the house.
Man, I tell you what, whether or not it's a basement or a crawl space right now, you know, water always tries to find that lowest point that's easily to go into. And you know something, there's a lot of wet basements and crawl spaces this week.
There are. Yeah, it happens. I mean, that was a lot of rain that we got, but I mean, we get a lot anyway. So it seems like it's bound to happen. I know you've got some ideas of how to maybe keep that from happening.
Yeah, and there's a lot of basic things you can do, and some of them are really obvious. You know, those gutters and downspouts on your house. If you've got gutters and downspouts, what I've noticed in our area here, about 60% of the time, if those are not draining down freely and going out into a storm drain system and going at least 10 feet away from the house, that's a lot of times the problem of a wet basement or crawl space.
That's where it's coming from. That water's just kind of leaking in there.
Yeah, what happens is, you know, water likes to go to that lowest point, right? So it always goes downhill. And so it sees that basement or crawl space and says, wow, I'm going to go down there because that's an easy path. And maybe roots, animals, rodents, things like that can get passed down there. It's really simple, but what happens is you think about all the surface area of your roof, right? And if you've got an angle on it, there's even more than the square footage of that first level of your house and your garage. So you're point loading that water, putting it right down next to the foundation wall, and then it's going to try to go inside the house. And so really, a lot of times I've fixed water issues by just making sure that that water gets at least 10 feet away, because when the water goes down, it's almost like a cone, right? So when it hits the ground, every foot that it goes down, it likes to get about a foot wider. So as you go down 8-9 feet, guess what? It can be in that basement pretty quickly, and longer if you've got big trees and stuff out there, because a lot of times there's a little bit of space around those roots, and it'll go right into that basement for you.
I didn't even think about that, just the fact that that's broken up some of that earth down there, so it's a little bit, yeah, more porous probably, and can just get in there. That's a really good point. So do you recommend that getting some runners that go out, 10 feet from the house?
Yeah, a lot of times the best plan, and check and see what building code is in your area. You know, like for instance, you know, for decades, you know, all the way up until like, I think the 60s or 70s, most of our downspouts in the city of Portland went into the sewer system. Well, a number of years ago, the city said, hey, guess what we're going to do? We're going to give you a tax rebate if you disconnect from that and drop it into your yard. So you'll go around and see a lot of old houses. You'll see like a cast iron pipe right next to where the downspout was. And there's a seal and it's got concrete or a metal plug that's welded on it or whatever. And that's where those got abandoned. But the problem is a lot of those homes, they just dropped it right there. And so now it's damaging the foundation as well. So you're seeing those old foundations get degraded. So the best course of action with that is to go down and maybe get some ABS pipe and follow what your building code is. In some areas, they want it to go out to the curb. And so then you would take it down and go out and hook it into where it goes to the curb and goes out. A lot of times you can put it into a dry well, and a dry well is basically just a plastic container that you fill up with gravel, and it'll go into that. And, you know, as long as you have a big enough one to take all of our water in, that'll really take it, and you just put it away 10 plus feet away and downhill from the house, and you can do a lot with that.
Okay, that's some great advice right there. So watch out for that. You know, if you missed it for this storm, there's plenty more rain coming. So you got plenty of chances to get that done now. Yeah. Great advice there.
Now, if you've got a crack in the foundation, which concrete's guaranteed to crack at some point, it just does. And in our area here, we've talked about this in previous times, but we've got clay soil around here. And so When it gets dry in the summertime, it settles down, and this time of year it raises back up. So it tends to put torques on the foundation, and you'll commonly see foundation cracks. So many times that crack is just a perfect pathway. It's like a crack in a dam, right? That wall is just holding that water back. So when you see that, there's a lot of different ways to repair that. One of my favorites is they come in and they actually patch the crack with a concrete type product that is meant for high strength concrete to repair that. And then they actually drill into that and they inject a polyurethane. Once it hits the moist soil, it expands out like spray foam and seals the backside of that, and no more leak. You can't just put something very easily on the front of that to block that out, because the hydrostatic pressure will basically push any type of topical patch you put on that, and then you have another leak again.
Wow, that's good to know that that's out there, though, that you can do something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of inexpensive ways to fix that without having to jack the house up and put a foundation in, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's very expensive. So good advice there. And then I know you had mentioned something about crawl spaces.
Crawl spaces are the same kind of thing, but just shorter. You know, your average crawl space is probably 24 to 30 inches. And some of the newer homes, you'll see stuff that you can stand in and almost make it into a basement. So a lot of the same rules apply. But in a crawl space, one of the big things that I want to see is to make sure that you've got a plastic at least 6 mil thick moisture barrier down there. So you've got plastic down there, plastic sheeting to keep that moisture from coming up. If you've got standing water, then you're gonna, after you've got the gutters taken care of, if you still have standing water down there, that's when you put in a perimeter sump pump system, where you put in basically a sump pump with a French drain around it to collect the water. It'll go down to the lowest point. You pump it out, and the same rules apply. It has to get out at least 10 feet away from the house so it doesn't come back in again. That's a little bit more of a project because you're down there army crawling and digging holes.
Yeah, it gets a little gnarly down there when you get into the crawl spaces. So, but yeah, that's still though great to know that there is a solution if you're still having that kind of an issue, something that you can work on. Any other things you have for it?
Last thing, make sure you take a look at your crawl space right now. I have gone into people's homes and heard, what's that gurgling noise? And the water was so high in the crawl space, it was actually in the heating ducts, and the water was gurgling because it was all filled up like a swimming pool underneath there. So make sure that you've got that taken care of, because if you've got one of your gutter systems, you know, that storm drain system broken, it could be loading it right into that crawl space, and that's going to be a whole other expensive issue to fix. So take a peek in the crawl space, and if not, have a crawl space company come out there and take a look at it and have them inspected for you. A lot of them will do it for little to no cost.
That's great. Well, fantastic advice on how to try to do that. So everybody out there, if you don't have that stuff already happening, get it done now before the next time comes. All right, do you want to move on to a preview of this week's episode?
Yeah, we've got a lot going on in this episode here. My Perform Like a Pro, where we take on that home improvement project. I'm taking off the luxury vinyl plank that's on my stairs, and I think you might have a video for that.
Yeah, a little clip here.
There we go. So those things, you know, it's funny. I put in a luxury vinyl plank about 3 years ago, and quite frankly, it just didn't hold up. The dogs and I, and hauling stuff up and down, doing remodels, they just started to fall apart pretty quickly. And after one warranty repair on it, I went, okay, I'm tearing them out. So this is part of a much bigger staircase remodel, but I basically take white oak stair treads and I show you how to sand them and finish them and install them. It's a really easy way to go.
Nice. So that's one part. That's the Perform Like a Pro segment.
Yeah. And I didn't have to build the stair tread part. I just went down to Floor and Decor and got them off the shelf. So that was really easy. And then we've got one of the coolest woodworkers that we're talking with, David Baruce from Baruce Works. This kid, who is kind of a pro skateboarder, takes broken skateboards and makes them into beautiful furniture, all out of broken skateboards. He cuts them up and glues them together and sandwiches them all together and makes these beautiful mid-century and different styled tables and furniture with it. It is amazing.
That's really cool. All out of broken skateboards.
Yeah. And he's got a whole deal with like Red Bull, where he does these skateboard events, and all these skateboarders come into town, and he's an active skateboarder as well. But then he takes all the broken skateboards and makes them into furniture. And I can't imagine, because there's got to be 100 skateboards into some of these things. And he starts out by scraping all the grip tape and the stickers and all that stuff off. just to get ready, it's got to have hundreds of hours into this thing just before you can even start doing anything with it.
That's really cool. I can't wait to see that one. That's awesome. It also just, shows how creative people are.
I love it. Yeah. It's super cool. And then, this was one of my favorite segments of the year. Got to go out to Durant Olive Mill, and we watched olive oil get made out there and go through the process. And it's the only commercial olive mill that is here in Oregon. And Paul Durant out there, those guys are such a class act, and they make absolutely beautiful olive oil. They're making an orange olive oil out there that I got to taste coming right out of the press. Stunning.
Ooh, I'm jealous right now. That's
yeah.
that's a good segment right there. Did you get to take any home?
I consumed a fair amount, and there's a store there, so how do you not go out of there, right? I mean,
right.
You know how it goes.
Exactly.
You know how it goes. So
well, awesome. And I know that's just all part of what's on this week's episode. So I don't know if you want to give any more. I'll
give one more away. We had fine power tools come in the studio and demonstrate their latest tools. Now, people go, who are these guys? They're the first power tool maker. Back in the 1800s, they invented the electric drill.
Wow, they invented it?
Yes, they were the first maker of the electric drill back in the 1800s. And they've been making them ever since out of Germany. It is beautiful stuff. I'd never actually worked with their tools before, so this was my first time. And man, I'm sold on this. Talk about just well-made stuff and beautifully made and comfortable to use, which is really nice.
Very cool. And that's, again, these are just a few of the things. I know there's even more on the show. You'll have to wait to watch that, though. So let's remind everybody, as always, when and where and how to watch.
Sounds good, man. So if you missed last week's show, don't worry. You can catch it tomorrow at 8 a.m. on Fox 12 Plus. The show I'm talking about here, that'll air 10 a.m. on Fox 12 Plus right after Outdoor GPS. And then Sunday night at 6 p.m. And then, of course, back at Friday morning at 8 a.m.
So you got a few chances to catch it. And then, of course, there's always the segments on our YouTube channel as well. We've got lots on there. But we're over 300, right?
We're getting close to it if we're not there already. There's a ton on there. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just head to the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel, click on that, and find Around the House Northwest. And we've got lots of things on there for you to watch. Well, Eric, it's always great to have you on here. Appreciate it so much. And
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
One other quick thing. If you've got home improvement questions for us, if you want me to answer those, maybe you'll be part of the show. So head over to the KPTV Fox 12 page and just go to Around the House. There's a contact us thing right there, and you can send in your question, and maybe I'll answer it for you.
That's great. Yeah, so definitely everybody go out there and do that, whatever your question is. So send that in. Well, Eric, thank you so much. I always appreciate having you on here, and I'll talk to you next week, if not before. Sounds good. Thank you, my friend. All right. And again, thank you to all of you who are watching here on Fox 12 Now. We started at 1 p.m. today. We do have, it's a big day here. We do have one more segment we're going to be doing here in just a little bit. Let's see, it's probably about 15 minutes. And it is a segment on Star Wars themed burlesque. I'll just leave it at that. It's an interview about that. So Eric's still there. So he's gonna stick around for that one too. I'm tuning in. So that's coming up at 2:30. So if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, you're gonna see this video end. If you're watching on the apps and the website, we'll continue on. We got a couple more things there for you leading up here to about 2:30 when we'll be back with that interview. All right, I'm Greg Dillard. This is Fox 12 Now.